Alrighty, guys. Some interesting news coming out of Oregon football. Oregon today, they go out there and they sign a wide receivers coach. They sign Ross Douglas to be a wide receiver coach for the Oregon Ducks. Now, I thought they could have promoted Rashid Samples. Rashid Samples came from Arizona State last year, so they could have maybe decided to do that with Rashid, but he's going to be still with the backs. And Oregon still has some really good running backs, but at receiver, you have the two Texas kids. You have Evan Stewart, and then you're going to have Dakorian Moore, who's one of the number one, rated wide receivers. He's the number one rated wide receiver in the 2025 recruiting class, and Oregon's hoping that he can be the type of college football player that is just elite from Jump Street. So Will Stein, Ross Douglas. Let's talk about Ross here. I'm going to pull up his bio. I'm very impressed by what Syracuse was able to accomplish last year. They end up going 9-3. They end up taking a lot of three-star players. A lot of them were bench players at Georgia, where Fran Brown was coaching before. And they went out there, and their offense was elite with Kyle McCord. I believe Kyle McCord might have even thrown like 37 touchdown passes. He did have a rough game against Pittsburgh, but Kyle McCord was dialed in all year. I don't think you can name five better quarterbacks. He carried that offense. And the New York Giants running backs coach Hickson, or I believe it's Coach Nixon maybe, he did a great job with, that football team and getting Kyle McCord up to speed. So Ross Douglas was their wide receiver coach. And Ross, if you're going to play Will Stein football, Will Stein is big on wide receivers blocking. He doesn't like his wide receivers going out of bounds. He believes in physical, tough yardage, and that's kind of exactly what, Oregon's going to try to end up doing. Oregon had a very athletic tight end last year, Kenyon Sadiq, who he was great in the Big Ten championship game, had like 2 touchdowns. He's kind of like what Will Stein wants to do in the passing game, that quick kind of aggressive passing game. And again, you're going to have to be physical if you're going to be a wide receiver at Oregon. You're going to have to block. You're going to take on the identity of Stein and Lanning. And really, Ross Douglas, very impressive background. He played at Michigan as a cornerback. He then went to the New England Patriots and was there with Bill Belichick and that staff. He was there for a handful of years in New England, and then I believe he worked at Rutgers. He was born in Avon, Ohio. He spent some time in Ohio. So, really, Ross Douglas is somebody that was we're going to say New England Patriots, Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and then we're also going to say Syracuse. And 30 years old, really highly regarded. I have so much confidence in Dan Lanning because of what Dan Lanning was able to do with Will Stein, because really Rashid Samples is a guy that Dan Lanning's hit on, Marshall Malkow, and Matthew Palage, they had a couple of years ago. Then they go out and get Chris Hampton. Then they go out there and get the top running back in the country from Tulane. So Dan Lanning just usually hits on this stuff, and he's been great. And I really love this hire because really Ross Douglas coached up a lot of 3-star wide receivers, 2-star wide receivers into being one of the most productive units on Syracuse. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here if you're Dan Lanning. And I just think that the offensive staff at Syracuse did such a phenomenal job in just 1 year of making them one of the best offenses in that conference and really being able to compete in that conference, beat Miami. I think they came back against Virginia Tech. Like, Syracuse in that dome, like, absolutely lit it up. With Kyle McCord. They were able to beat Wake Forest pretty good. They were able to, was it Cincinnati, or they were able to absolutely pummel even like somebody earlier in the season at the Dome there. They were able to go out there, and I believe it was Wake Forest. So I like the hire of Ross Douglas. I really do. And a lot of these guys are going to have, prove-it deals, but Ross seems like a dude. So I think he's going to do just fine. Now, Junior Adams is a sensational coach to replace him. Like, I don't expect Ross to be as effective as Junior Adams. Like, Junior Adams was up there with Cooper Kupp. Junior Adams, has called plays before. Junior Adams was vital to the success of Oregon football. Okay, the development of Tez Johnson from Troy was fantastic. Even Trayshawn Holden is a physical, really good receiver. Evan Stewart, like, I wanted more out of Evan because he was just that great at A&M, and he is the 5-star talent, and there is so much talent there. He probably would have been a 3rd-round pick, but I believe that if he has a great year this year, he can go to a 1st-round pick. And so the thing is with Evan too is that he didn't play in that Rose Bowl. But it shows Evan's competitive character, that he was injured a little bit this season, and he was there for 1 year at Oregon, but instead of packing it in and trying to go to the league, like, Evan's like, I didn't end the year the way I wanted. I wanted to be a factor in that Big Ten championship. The ball didn't really find him in that game. And really, Dante Moore and this passing group, it's going to be fascinating now with what Ross Douglas can do, with these receivers. But I think Junior Adams could be an offensive coordinator. I think that Junior Adams could probably be a Power 5 coach with just his experience at Washington State. And now he's going to the NFL. I believe that he'll eventually call plays. I think he's still in his 40s. I think Junior Adams and Coach Laughlin can both be coordinators or head coaches. I really do. I think that impressively of them. So Junior was one of my favorite coaches on the staff. He was right up there with Coach Laughlin in terms of the guys that I really, really loved at Oregon. And he's a great offensive mind. Now, Dan Lanning also found a gem in Drew Maringer. Drew Maringer, again, was one of those coordinators that was on the fast track to maybe become a top-level head coach. And I believe, like, at Rutgers or something, or being at Texas, like, he coordinated an offense that eventually he was climbing so quickly. And then one of the stops, it just became really rough for him. He had like a rough couple of seasons, but the potential, the smarts, the IQ is still there. And Ferguson was really good as a tight end. They also had to replace Adrian Clem. Last year, they did it with Alake Terry, who's a young offensive line coach, really bright. So I like this coaching staff, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I think that they lost that guy Long, who was a coach. They lost him to maybe like Alabama, I want to say. You got Chris Hampton, that I absolutely love, who runs the back end of the defense. Retaining him is good. Tosh and Dan, that's solid coordinatorship. Now, I would like to see more blitzes from them. And then they do a good job of stopping the run with Tony Toyota, but I want their linebackers to be, I know Bryce was really good. I want their linebackers to get better. And then I really want this year, it's going to be critical for Elijah Rushing to take that next step. Like, you thought Blake Purchase would take that next step, and Oregon's best guys were all these like experienced transfers, but it's about time that you get Mateo and Elijah together. Elijah's a 5-star from Arizona. He needs to play like a 5-star. He needs to have like 4 or 5 sacks. I know he's only an underclassman, all right, but you want to see him have this type of career, because at Alabama, like, there's a couple of 5-stars that I loved, like Pierre, John Zay Pierre at Alabama. I thought he would be fantastic. He just hasn't seen the field that much. And then Jeremiah Alexander was unbelievable in high school, and he was just okay at Alabama. But I want to see Elijah be that just absolute force. So defensively, the defensive line, I think, is an area that can get better. For Junior Adams, this Cowboys staff is freaking looking loaded. I like Connor Riley. I like Junior Adams, Clayton Adams, the coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Like, Dallas is out here, even with a kind of bland hire and Brian Schottenheimer. This staff that they're putting together is actually a very interesting offensive staff. Now, defensively, they're going out here and they're basically getting Eberflus's guys and trying to reincarnate this Eberflus defense from a couple of years ago, I think, before he went out up to Indianapolis there. Alrighty, guys. Again, this Ross Douglas hire, again, I liked watching Syracuse football. I think he did a heck of a job. I think he's a young, rising coach. I think he's going to get along with Will Stein. Is it easy to replace Junior Adams? The consistency, the recruiting, it's not. What am I looking for Ross Douglas this year? I'm looking for Evan Stewart to be a consistent downfield player in the passing game. I'm looking for Kenyon Sadiq to continue to just be a force out there. Oregon's even got some young, freshman tight ends. I think they recruited 2 like in the last cycle that are very young players from Utah. I want to see these guys pop a little bit. And then if Jerion Dickey can ever get healthy, he was an absolute rock star in the Bay Area in high school. I loved his film. He played like A.J. Brown at the high school level. I want to see if Jerion can ever, accomplish something very, very significant at Oregon. Now he is getting on the field more. Kyler Casper's a big target that I believe now is going to be a junior. Let's see if Kyler maybe finds a role. But again, with Dakorian Moore, with Evan Stewart, how many wide receivers? It's a deep room and filled with talent with Evan, Dakorian, Kyler, Jerion Dickey, really good tight end play, running backs that are going to, I think Noah Whittington's coming back again. So the offense, I'm so excited to see the Dante Moore and Dakorian Moore show. I'm so excited for this season. I really am. And I want it to really be a season that's very, very, I want it to be a memorable season. Last year, they played a lot of easy competition. They were able to win a lot of games. They had a good season last year. This year, I think that we're going to see some even more exciting offense. Maybe some more downfield shots with a quarterback like Dante. And I can't wait to see how Ross does. I'm wishing him the best of luck. He's working for great people, and we'll see how all of this goes.